You guys really liked the last video I made talking about 4 things emotionally intelligent people don't do. So here's 15 more. I'm gonna give some context. So throughout my whole life, I've studied a lot of psychology, and to a degree, I've had to study it because I had to become a practical psychologist because there were so many messed up things about me. I was so angry all the time. I was so insecure. I was so impulsive. I'm like, well, why am I feeling this? Why do I behave this way? This isn't necessarily normal. Is there a better way? I know I can be less angry, less insecure, less impulsive. So I had to study psychology to freaking diagnose my damn self. Right? So, first thing emotionally intelligent people don't do is they don't react without reflection. Beyond just not reacting at all, again, I said that we have an emotional and a logical brain. Reacting off our emotions means if you get angered, you lash out at anger. You scream. If you feel sad, you'll just give up and you'll crumble and you'll break down because of stress and you're done. Step one is to step out of your emotional brain, but beyond that, don't react without proper reflection. And in reflection, you'll actually proceed with a more logical perspective and you'll see that there's a logical path to just create a solution as opposed to just being extremely chaotic and fully immersing yourself in chaos. Emotionally intelligent people pause before reacting to intense emotions. They avoid knee-jerk reactions. Hey, understanding that emotional regulations just lead to better outcomes, so they regulate their emotions. We have a framework we can call it the emotional buffer zone. Right? You can create a moment between stimulus and the response to process your feelings and consider the consequences of your actions. When you create that moment between the initial stimulus and the response and how you proceed, you create a buffer zone where you just analyze. This is the point of reflection that allows you to step out from emotion into logic. You can imagine receiving a rude email. Instead of firing back, like, how dare you say that to me? You're terrible. Just step back, reread it later, and then respond thoughtfully. Like, thank you for your input. That means the world. Instead of just seeing it and saying, screw you. No, just say, okay, I'm a little angry. I know why I'm angry. Let me step back. I will reread it later. I'll respond. Wait 10 minutes. We call it the rule of 10. Wait 10 minutes before responding to emotional triggers. Emotional triggers will make you say, do something that you will regret. So avoid that by just creating a buffer zone. Give it 10 minutes and allow yourself to regulate and process your emotions prior to you taking action. Because the likelihood of you acting off that emotion significantly decreases. So now it's logic to where you literally avoid conflict and you present a solution without having to go through the freaking arguments and the back and forth. Second thing that emotionally intelligent people don't do is they don't freaking internalize other people's problems. They maintain empathy without absorbing others' emotional burdens. Hey, when you're empathetic and emotionally intelligent, you're likely to absorb people's emotion. It's heavy. You'll feel it in your heart. It's like you can almost place yourself in their shoes. You can live their life, see through their lens, and it's freaking damaging. Which is why you don't need to internalize it. You can feel, but you don't need to deeply internalize it unless that is the goal. If your goal is to internalize, to enhance your level of empathetic capabilities or enhance your capacity to be empathetic, that's fine. But usually when you internalize things, it gets freaking rugged and it's freaking misery. Like ugh. You don't want to do that. Avoid that. Set some type of boundary to protect your freaking mental health. Otherwise, it will just freaking slap you in the face, smack you down. It's a heavy backpack. It's a big toll. And there's a price to pay for that. There's a price. I think the only man in history through any written piece of literature that was able to bear the weight of the entire world was Christ in the Gospels. Yeah, I mean, that's the example of picking up your cross, yeah? Hey, we're only human. Some can do it, maybe some can't. Maybe we're not supposed to. But when you step away from internalizing other people's problems, you can develop compassion without over-identification. You get to help without making other people's struggles your own. But you still feel and you can help, but it's not your problem. So it's a form of detachment which saves you from this emotional load that will inevitably come if you just internalize it. I mean, a coworker venting about their personal issues doesn't necessarily mean it's your issue. But you can empathize without carrying that emotional weight by helping them. That is the art of detachment. Ask yourself, what's your role here? And what is outside of your control? Get rid of that. Identify the controllables. Double down on that. Third, emotionally intelligent people don't chase validation. I'll say it time and time again. External validation is a sign of complete insecurity and lack of value. This is coming from someone who is completely insecure. I predicated my value on what people thought about me, the perception of me. You get to a point where you derive your self-worth from within. You don't seek external validation or approval to feel good about yourself because now you have an undeniable stack of evidence that you are who you say you are. Shout out to Alex Hormozy. But the whole idea of this stack of evidence framework is it's really hard to deny. If you are, let's say you're a young man and you're not confident, it's probably because you don't look your best, you're not in the best shape of your life, you don't know how to speak, and you've been rejected by a lot of girls. Let's say you're a man and you are confident. You probably have an undeniable stack of evidence that you don't get rejected. Maybe you're handsome, maybe this, maybe you know how to speak, maybe you're charming. Or you exist in a delusion, which I believe is nothing worse than existing in a false reality, a delusion, in which you try to justify your own inadequate behaviors or actions in an attempt to fool the world, which just leads to you fooling yourself and you lie to the one person that matters. So we have a self-determination theory, which is true emotional intelligence stems from autonomy, competence, relatedness, not external validation. Everything is inward. I mean, look across the teachings of almost all religions. It teaches you to dwell inwards. Now, you look at Buddhism and the study of the Tao. It's connectiveness with yourself within. That's the state of nirvana, which is the state of the Buddha, which is aligning your chakras. I mean, you look at the Gospels, right? You look at the New and the Old Testament. Christ speaks about the kingdom of heaven that dwells inside you. He speaks about how the Father, Him are one. It dwells inside. Yes? So you need to ask yourself, am I doing this because it aligns with my values, or is it because I want recognition? And it's really hard to fight this I want recognition because we have ego. We have pride. It's really hard to eliminate that. You're not supposed to eliminate it. You just have to detach from it. Don't directly associate with it. Learn to live above it. Have it be here. It exists, but you learn to live above your overinflated ego or your deflated ego and your pride. You live above it. They say that you never kill your demons. Just learn to live above them. Okay? Fourth thing, emotionally intelligent people they don't let emotions hijack logic. Hence the first one, which was reflect so that you can enter the logical state. When you don't know how to balance emotions and rationality, you definitely don't ensure that your decisions are grounded. When you can do that, your decisions are grounded and they're empathetic. You have to use emotions as data, not as a decision-making metric. Just say that when you feel angry, when you're sad, when you're fed up, it is data coming in from a stimulus, from an external source. Doesn't mean you have to make a decision. It's just data that's meant to be processed. Data should be processed through a system. The system will be your frameworks that you devise so that when you feel angered, so that when you feel stressed, so that when you feel sad, so that when you feel defeated, or when you're happy, when you're joyful, even happiness and joy should be processed. Yes, that means when you're happy, don't act on your happiness. Think, what is the best thing for me to do? Which is why I love the idea of stoicism, which is to not act on any emotion at all. Bad or good. I'll put quotes on that. It's all subjective. All right. A great example is not making an impulsive purchase based on excitement. Oh, it's on sale. It's on sale. Now instead you reflect, you enter the logic, and you're like, well, here's my budget. Do I need this to live or sustain or survive? If the Gucci flip-flops aren't directly related to your survival, maybe you don't need it. So maybe you could have prevented yourself from just making an impulsive purchase by just reflecting, disassociating, and entering the logical frame. And definitely don't let emotions hijack your way of thinking. Otherwise, it wires you in a way where now you're just an impulsive mess. It's all about feeling. I want to feel this. I want to feel this. Instant gratification. Now you can't swallow the glass. Now you take pleasure now and inevitably pain later, as opposed to pain now, pleasure later. Fifth thing, emotionally intelligent people don't hold on to grudges. It's understandable if you want to hold on to a grudge. Like, I get it. It's because we have to understand the idea of what a grudge is, right? So a grudge is, to a degree, resentment because someone did something. And it all stems from an expectation. You expected them to do something which they didn't, so they failed you. They removed the expectation. They set a new one, which is here. And now you hold a grudge because you could not believe they did it. I'd say it's a lot easier to just not even have grudges if you expect the worst. I'm not saying you walk around always just negative, but when you accept that there is a possibility for everything going wrong, if in the case that things do go wrong, you're like, okay, this is normal. Expectations get reset. Breath of fresh air. Emotionally intelligent people understand that resentment just harms them more than anyone else. When you let go of grudges, you can definitely maintain your peace. Because if you just hold on to the grudges, it's a big old backpack that you have to carry that just weighs down on you. And hey, your legs can only take so many steps before your body collapses. Now what's going to carry the backpack? Nothing. It's on top of you, and your face is on the floor, planted, on the ground, in the dirt. One of my favorite Buddhist teachings is holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting other people to suffer. I love it. That's what holding on to anger is. There's a beautiful story about the Buddha. And again, the Buddha was just a man, I believe his name was Siddhartha Gautama, who was once a king and emperor that had all these prized possessions. He had everything. He had a whole kingdom. He was the king, the emperor. And he felt unfulfilled, and so he leaves his kingdom behind, all his gold, everything, all his servants. He goes sit by a tree. And as he sits by this tree and just sits and begins to become perplexed by the endless possibilities of an unknown universe, he dwells inwards. And he uncovers a wisdom that gave him the fulfillment that having a kingdom, servants, and a bunch of gold would never, which is connection to himself. So I love the whole idea of holding on to anger. It's literally drinking poison and saying, I'm going to drink this poison. You're going to suffer. Hey, you're the only one suffering. You crazy person. You're drinking the poison. So just after a disagreement, how about you just address the issue directly? Or at least choose to move on instead of letting it fester inside. And now it's built up resentment. And now it's like you're tallying up all the mistakes someone makes. Like, what type of human does that? What type of human just sits back, tallies up, oh, yep, he did that wrong. I'm going to note it. I'm going to take note of that. For what? When you can communicate and ensure that they never make it again and they grow from that. As opposed to just tallying up all the BS. You're not helping in any way, shape, or form. You are not adding to the body of knowledge, nor are you adding to the body of hope. And you're definitely not impacting or helping someone change for the better. You're just being nihilistic, you're becoming more bitter, and you're going to get more angry, and you're going to build more resentment, and you're going to keep holding on to that grudge, and it's just going to drain you of energy, and you're going to be depleted. And so now you can't even communicate because you have no energy. And anytime there's a problem, you get angered because of your lack of energy, because of the grudges that you hold, and now you think it's their fault. When in reality, you've been holding on to grudges this entire time. That was the thing, seeking, not even seeking, just sucking all the power and the energy out of you. Sixth thing, emotionally intelligent people don't suppress their emotions. There's a big difference from acting upon it and suppressing it. We need to understand that processing our feelings instead of burying them is something that's important. Suppression leads to buildup. I want you to think of trying to pack a luggage with a bunch of clothes and you're pressing down on it, trying to make the clothes fit, and you end up zipping it up. And then next thing you know, on the airplane, freaking pops open, zipper's broke. It's because you freaking try to compress too much. The luggage couldn't take it anymore. The zipper ended up breaking. And then what that means is the more you suppress, the more you feel, the more it just adds up. And one day you're going to snap. It takes one stimulus to get you to snap. It might not be this one. It might be the next one. One stimulus, one moment where you're angry. Now you've lost it. Now you take all that anger on someone and you just freaking destroyed them mentally and emotionally, and you've left a freaking scar. We call that trauma, huh? So you can avoid giving someone that burden by just not suppressing. Feel it. Okay, damn, I'm sad right now. Why? Okay, this sucks. Enter the logical brain. Well, what can I do despite me being sad? Is this going to restrict me from getting things done today? If so, okay, let me just call it a day. How about I continue tomorrow? Let me just not, you break things down logically. When you identify specific emotions, it really helps in managing them effectively. Is this anger? Is this sadness? Is this joy? Is this impulse? Is this lust? Is this love? Do I like this person? Or do I just like the transaction, the value they give me? What is this? Don't say I'm upset. Say, maybe I'm not upset. Maybe I'm just disappointed because my expectations weren't met. That's more coherent. You've regressed it down a deeper level to find the underlying reason as to why you were upset. We all know you're upset. When you change that framework and you go downward, you see the why, which is the root of the issue, which is expectations weren't met. You were let down. Since you were let down, you were upset. Solution, don't have an expectation at all. Accept that anything can happen. And if anything happens, it's okay. That's acceptance. Detachment from your desires. Letting it be. Flowing like water. All right. Seventh thing. Emotionally intelligent people don't let negative self-talk take over. Now, I know this is a little counterintuitive because I made videos talking about how I'm very brutal with myself and I speak to myself very brutally. But it's not negative self-talk. It's kind of like, go, man, go. It's my fuel. It's the gasoline to my fire. I look in the mirror, I'm like, you're not enough. Not yet. You will be one day. Get to work. And so it turns me on. Negative self-talk is a little bit different. It's like, even though I'm doing everything I can, negative self-talk is, you're garbage. You're garbage. Die. Like, damn, I'm doing everything I can, but relax. So don't let that negative self-talk take over because there's always the possibility of more. We always acknowledge that there's more. This world is vast. We could always do more. I get it. I mean, the demon that lays by my bed every freaking night is the demon that whispers, you could have went harder today. I get it. That demon's always there. And I'm just like, you stay there in the corner. I know I could have went harder, but damn it, I'm giving it 1% every day. I'm compounding. At least I'm compounding. And I'm not losing or staying stagnant. At least it's an upward trend, right? You need to counteract this inner critic that you have by reframing negative thoughts into constructive ones. And so you become the inner coach, not the inner critic. The critic always got things to say. No matter what you do, the coach has things to say because the coach wants you to do better. The critic doesn't give a damn if you do better. No matter if you do everything perfect, the critic is like, why are you so perfect? Aren't you human? Yeah, the critic always has bad things to say. The coach is here to inspire, uplift. So get into that self-coaching mindset. It's called the self-coaching model. Challenge negative thoughts with evidence-based actions. You have an evidence-based stack right here. You have a stack of rapport right here that can help counteract all that critical talk that you give yourself. If you don't feel like you're enough and the self-critic says, I am not enough, go back to the stack of evidence. Have you done things in your life that's worthy of saying, I am enough? If you feel like you're worthless, go back to the stack of evidence. Are you truly worthless? If the answer is yes, okay, maybe you have some growing to do. If the stack of evidence says no, because I've done this, 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 and this, and I'm only gonna get better, then maybe you understand it's the critic. You have to differentiate if it's the coach speaking or the critic. The coach is tough, remember. The coach is tough. The coach wants you to grow. The critic just kind of wants you to fall. The coach says, I'll help you not fall, but you have to do this. You need to differentiate those two, okay? Eighth thing that emotionally intelligent people don't do is they don't avoid constructive conflict. Emotionally intelligent people address conflict head on, knowing that avoidance only breeds resentment. I mean, there is no reason to avoid a communication. The reason why it's hard is because you know it has to get done. Anything hard is worth seeing through. Business is hard. Entrepreneurship is hard. Growing your channel is hard. Exercise and getting in shape is hard. Anything hard is worth seeing through to the end. So that goes for a conflict and a conversation. Don't avoid it. Have that conversation. Focus on facts, feelings, and a forward-looking resolution. It's like a conflict resolution triangle, right? You have facts here, you have feelings here, and you have forward-looking resolution here. Take all of them into account. If a friend is always canceling last minute on you, right? You can just say, well, hey man, every time you cancel, I get disappointed. And this happens all the time. Can we find a better way to communicate? Like, can you just be upfront, like yes or no, as opposed to saying yes and then last minute saying no? No, don't just say, oh, don't worry, man, I get it. No, if it affects you, just speak. Who cares? Speak. Who cares? You have to be able to address these things and not run away from them or avoid them, because if you avoid them, the likelihood of them happening again increases. If you address it, the likelihood of it happening again significantly decreases. And you establish a behavior change, which benefits both parties. All right? Ninth thing, emotionally intelligent people don't resist change. They learn to adapt to change by focusing on what they can control and reframing uncertainty as opportunity. Hey, everything in this world is uncertain. That's the beauty of life, is that we crave certainty in an uncertain world. That's the beauty. That's the paradox in it. There's a philosophical insight that I want to give you in regards to Stoicism. Stoicism, so they say, change is neither good nor bad, it just is. Whatever matters, what does matter, is how you respond to change. Nothing is good, nothing is bad. But what's your response? I'll give you an example. I'm on the freeway maybe like a week or two ago, and this kid smacks, like rear ends me, smacks my stuff. I kind of go forward a little bit. And I'm like, well, look in the mirror. I mean, it's this young high school kid, man. And he's probably with his girlfriend, and he's stressed. He's like, oh my gosh, he's like doing this, he's doing all this. And he's like, oh, and he's trying to wave to me like, I'm so sorry. And then his girlfriend's like, oh my God. And I'm looking there. And I drive and I try to pull over to the side, right? So we pull over to the parking lot. He gets out. He's like, I'm so sorry, bro. I'm so sorry. And I look at him, I'm like, it's all good. Life is tough already, man. Mistakes are going to happen. Good luck out there. Shake his hand. Off he goes. No insurance claim, no nothing. I did tell him, I'm like, hey, I mean, if you want to pay for the damages, you can. I won't force you. If you give me a number, I'll text you. And once I repair it, I'll tell you how much it costs. You can send me the money. If not, cool. He's like, yeah, bro, I got you. So he literally could have not paid me. But what happened was I just said, maybe he will. And if he doesn't, who cares? I've made mistakes before. Happens. Why would I need to file an insurance claim? Make it hard on his parents. Make it hard on him. So I get it fixed. And I text him, I'm like, hey, bro, I'm getting it fixed. By the way, this is how much it is. Send him a picture of the receipt. He's like, bro, I just sent you the money. I'm like, oh, that's what I'm talking about. He's a man that's true to his word. How about that? All right? So you don't need to see anything as good or bad. Just see it as it is, and then you just take practical steps and you take logical steps to solve it. Always remember, nothing is good or bad. And suffering to a degree isn't real. We choose suffering. We choose to suffer because things that happen aren't necessarily bad. But because we perceive it to be bad, we end up suffering. If it just is, then you're like, well, it just is. I feel this, but doesn't mean I have to suffer because of this. If someone you love dies, I mean, from a theologian standpoint, if you study the Gospels, death is entering the kingdom, given that that person has lived lived a life devoted to Christ and believes. I mean, so death isn't sad. Death is bye-bye. See you soon, but I'm still here. Maybe one day I'll meet you over there. You feel sad because you're like, maybe I won't make any more memories with them. Doesn't mean you have to be sad, right? Keep that in mind. 10th thing emotionally intelligent people don't do. They definitely don't overanalyze every situation. It sucks because I overanalyze every situation. So I'm trying to show you to avoid things that I do because sometimes it's a lot better. Now, there are times where overanalyzing will help because you build up, like you devise systems and you have plans in place and you have an idea. Like when I'm with, let's say I'm on a date, I always want to face the door and I'm like, okay. In my head, she just ordered appetizers. And she's like, oh, I can't wait to try these appetizers. You know what's going on in my head? I'm like, okay, if a dude busts in that door right now with a freaking fully loaded AK, there's a window right here. I have a spoon and a fork right here. Exits to my back. If I duck down, grab her, run towards the exit, likelihood of us getting shot increases because it's an AK. Okay, so what I have to do immediately is we have to duck. This is a double pane window. So that means, okay, I have to get this knife. I have to smash it against the wall. We have to crawl out to the back, exit towards the car. Like, that's what's going on in my head. Now, I'm overanalyzing everything. And it's a hindrance, but I've learned to live with it. I like it because I create solutions to problems that haven't come yet. But if in the case that it does, I got a solution. What's up? Right? So the thing is, to be emotionally intelligent, you just detach. It's a form of detachment and understanding. And that also means detaching from the idea that everything might go wrong. Emotionally intelligent people know that overthinking just creates paralysis. It drains energy, so it makes decisions a little bit harder to carry out. What you have to do is you have to just make decisions with the best information available, move forward. So let's use the date, for example. A better version of me would just simply say, this is a nice date. I'm in a good place. This restaurant has not been robbed yet, and the likelihood of it getting robbed tonight and me and this woman getting held at gunpoint is extremely, extremely low. How about I just enjoy the moment? So instead of overanalyzing, I just succumb to the present moment, right? We have this 80-20 rule that you can adopt, which is make decisions when 80% of the information is clear instead of just waiting for perfection. Take 80% of the information that's available at hand, the 20% discard. Those are just possibilities. And the likelihood of 20% exceeding 80% is very low. Okay? 11th thing. Emotionally intelligent people don't over-identify with their emotions either. Here's an explanation. I want to break this down. Emotionally intelligent people recognize emotions as temporary states, not permanent traits. Emotions are like the waves crashing in at shore. They come in all at once and they also return. They never just stay there. In, come back. In, come back. So when you're angry, it'll crash in at once, but it doesn't mean that it's a permanent trait. It's a temporary state. You are in a state of anger. You are in a state of sadness. You're not a sad person. You are just temporarily in a state where you feel sad. If you can observe emotions without attaching to them, it really helps maintain your perspective. You get to zoom out. So whatever's bad and makes you sad, you zoom out and say, it just is. I am not a sad person. I am going through something. I perceive it to be sad because of this, And so this is temporary. But when I zoom out, it's not even that sad because it just is. Don't say I'm angry. Just say I feel angry right now. It's a lot better. I feel angry right now. Not an angry individual, but right now I feel anger. Right now. I may even be angry, but it doesn't mean I am an angry person. Right now, I am because I'm in that state. And to get out of a state, we just have to reframe. And plus, just try jumping. Let's say you're sad. It's really hard to be sad if you just jump. Try to jump and then force a smile and then act like a puppy dog like this. I guarantee you it'll be really hard for you to be sad. If you just jump and act like a puppy dog, you'll just be like, I'm so freaking silly, man. You'll kind of snap out of that state. Have you ever noticed, or have you ever had an experience where you were really sad, but you had a partner and they just come in doing something goofy like, woo, 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 and then next thing you know, you just die of laughter and you feel better? Well, it's because you were temporarily in a state and they changed the pattern. They came in, put you in another state, a happy state. Like they bring ice cream to you, they rub your head and go, goo, 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 goo. And next thing you know, you're happy. States are temporary. Remember, they're not permanent traits. You don't need to over-identify with your emotions. 12th thing, emotionally intelligent people don't avoid responsibility, man. Emotionally intelligent people own their mistakes instead of deflecting the blame onto others. This builds trust and fosters growth. All right? That's called integrity. Hey, I made a mistake, and it definitely wasn't your fault. Damn it. I can't believe it. I'm so silly. It's not going to happen again. I'm sorry. As opposed to, I made a mistake, and to a degree, you could have helped prevent this mistake, you sorry person. How dare you? No, it's my fault. I'm sorry. And I'll try my best to not let it happen again. As a matter of fact, I won't try my best. It won't happen again. I'm so sorry. Thank you for being patient with me throughout that mistake. It's called the accountability ladder. I love this framework. You move from blame and excuses to ownership, resolution, and solutions, right? You can blame and make excuses as to why you are not or this went wrong, or you can just take ownership and then you have a solution. Remember, power goes to where you blame. Let's say something happened because of you, but you blame your partner. That means your partner has the power. That means you can't do anything to change because all the power is in their hands. This is going wrong. You are in the current circumstances because of your partner. So they grip you by the neck and they determine the outcome. Return the power back to you by saying, it's my fault. I'm sorry. Since it's my fault, I can definitely change. But if it's your fault, it's an uncontrollable now. Controllables are what you can do and directly impact. Uncontrollables are things that are out of this sphere of influence. If it's your partner or his fault or her fault or your father's fault or your uncle's fault or your wife's fault or your freaking mother's fault, you have no power there. Give the power back to yourself. All right? 13th thing. Emotionally intelligent people don't let external conditions or circumstances define their mood. There are so many times in the past where if I was a little angry that day, I'd be with someone and they're like, dude, your anger's rubbing off on me. And I'm like, well, how freaking sorry? So what, you're a sponge? Right? If ever there was a day where everyone around me was angry and I'm happy, I'm freaking happy. I'll go around like, hey, what's up? Why is everyone not smiling? Huh? And they'll be like, bro, shut up. I'm like, man, you be quiet. I'm happy. I don't let my environment dictate how I feel. Emotionally intelligent people focus on internal control, knowing that they can't really change external events, but they can 100% manage their reactions to external events. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space lies our power to choose response. Remember, buffer zone, space, it's right here. Here's stimulus, someone just screamed at you. Here's response, there's a buffer zone. What the heck am I gonna do knowing that someone just screamed at me? You get to choose your response logically, strategically, if you can step into this buffer zone, in this small little space. Just because everyone around you is mad doesn't mean you have to automatically be a sponge to your environment. Set the mood. And notice that if you are mad and someone goes off of how you feel, they're probably not that aware because they're like, okay, you're angry. I guess I'll match you by being angry. It's almost a form of compensation. It's like compensating for this uncomfortability. So if you're angry and I try to be happy, it might be uncomfortable. I might be uncomfortable because I don't know if you can match my happy, and so I'll just match you. Right? It's almost like the idea of framing body language, where if someone's crossing their legs or just crossing their arms, you'll match them by crossing your arms, right? You give them like a reflection of themselves. Or you can just set the mood. If someone's crossing their arms, how about you just stand with your arms down? Very simple. Very simple. And then inevitably, you'll see that they just end up adjusting to you. Right? So set the example. You don't need to let external conditions dictate how you feel or what you do. Great example. A traffic jam doesn't need to ruin your day because now you reframe it as, I have more time to listen to a podcast. Here we go. So now there's a traffic jam, and you also just got done with an entire podcast and you learned, or you got done with one of Thompson's YouTube videos. Congratulations. All right? External inconveniences are just opportunities to internalize, reflect, and set the standards, set the mood for how you want to proceed. 14th thing. Emotionally intelligent people don't take things personally because they get it. Every human is flawed. We're all flawed. We've been flawed. We make mistakes. I don't take anything personal because to a degree, you might not even be aware of your own ignorance. You don't get angry at a child for breaking a vase. It's like, oh, he didn't know any better. Come on. Just because someone is an adult, 25, 30, 35, 40, 55, who cares, doesn't mean they're grown or mature or emotionally intelligent or aware. They're just old. They've been alive a long time. I stopped using age as a metric to track wisdom and intelligence a long time ago. And if you want an example, I know that for some of you, it's surprising that I'm 24. I'm 24. And I met some freaking magnificent minds that were like younger than me. And I'm like, how do you know this much about philosophy? Where do you study this? And I met some freaking 45-year-olds that are just, I kind of want to pull my hair out. I'm like, you've been on this earth for 47 years and you don't know this. Age just means they're old. Doesn't mean they're smart or wise. They're old. That's all. Don't take anything personally. If a coworker is short-tempered, just don't get offended and say, well, I mean, that person's probably stressed. I get it. Probably got a lot of things going on. I don't know. Who's to say if I was in their shoes, I would behave differently? You have to ask when you're affected by somebody, what else might be going on with this person? Why are they so angry? Why are they so sad? Why are they this all the time? Stop being so self-centered. Like, think about them. Like, what are they going through? If you went through it, would you behave the same? Who's to say you wouldn't? All right? Last thing, emotionally intelligent people don't neglect gratitude. Hey, man. Emotionally intelligent people take time to just appreciate little things. Ready? Here's what gratitude can do. And here's the difference between depression and joy, happiness, peace, and tranquility. Ready? Depression is acknowledgement of the lack of something. That's what depression is. If you acknowledge everything that you lack, the likelihood of you feeling inferior, you lose value, and you aren't certain of yourself increases. And so you feel depressed. You feel sad. You exist in a state of sadness for a long time, and then you enter the state of depression. Sadness, the transcendent state of sadness, is depression, which is acknowledgement of sadness, and then you embody and engulf suffering. So sadness accompanied with suffering creates depression. It's a state. Now, given that you don't have a neurological chemical imbalance, I'm not a neurologist, but given that you don't have a chemical imbalance, it's a state. Gratitude is acknowledgement of all that you do have. So here's a great example. Let's compare your life to all the people on social media. You don't have their money, you don't have their car, you don't have their partner, you don't look how they look, you don't have what they have. Sucks, right? Now let's compare yourself to someone in a third world country where their ribs are poking out of their damn ribs. They don't know what clean water is. So them muddy water is just water. They just know what water is. They don't know what clean or dirty water is. They know that's water. I'm going to drink out of that mud because it's water. Food to them is the leaf that just sprouted from the tree. Oh, yeah. Fun to them isn't scrolling through Instagram. Fun to them is just kicking a freaking ball that they had to make out of used clothing and cotton. And they just kick with their bare feet. They don't know what shoes are, sandals are. They just walk on dirt. This is just them. They don't know what Dove soap is. They don't know what Head and Shoulders is. They just kind of go into the river, ta-da, clean. Now you get to acknowledge all things you do have. You're like, wow, my life isn't that bad after all. That's the difference that gratitude can have. It's almost psychologically and physiologically impossible to be depressed and grateful. It's very difficult unless you have some sort of chemical imbalance in your brain. Because when you're grateful, you acknowledge all that you have. You're like, oh my gosh, my life is so great. Are you kidding me? I got a nose, for crying out loud, and it's straight. Oh, I can listen through both ears. Oh, I can smell. Oh, I can speak. Oh, life is great. As opposed to, man, I don't have that much money. Oh, that person looks so much better than me. I don't have that. See how easy it is to get into this state of depression as opposed to this state of peace and tranquility and abundance? Don't neglect gratitude. You have no idea the impact it'll have. I challenge you, if you feel depressed, watch a documentary on third world countries and how they live. And do that for the next week and fully immerse yourself in everything that you do have. If you have a bed, a roof over your head, food to eat, clothes to wear, you're winning. Take time to thank people that have contributed to you, that have made a contribution to your well-being, towards you achieving your goal. You have to really internalize and think about things that you're grateful for. It makes a world of a difference. Okay? So, to recap, 1, do not react without reflection. 2, don't internalize other people's problems. 3, don't chase validation. 4, don't let emotions hijack logic. 5, don't hold on to grudges. 6, don't suppress emotions. 7, don't let negative self-talk dominate. 8, don't avoid constructive conflict. Don't avoid it. 9, don't resist change. 10, don't overanalyze every situation. 11, don't over-identify with your emotions. 12, don't avoid responsibility. 13, don't let external circumstances define or dictate your mood or behaviors. 14, don't take things personally. 15, do not neglect gratitude. Charlie Munger, inversion thinking, right? We learn best if we just learn what to avoid, right? Instead of how can I make my marriage better? What can I do to destroy my marriage? Identify, avoid. To destroy my marriage, I will be a bad partner. I will not communicate. Okay, so how about I be a good partner and communicate and I do this and I'm patient in this. So I told you everything what not to do. Just don't do it. It's a lot easier than doing something. So if I say don't let emotions hijack logic, you just, okay, I don't do it. It's a lot easier to not do something than to do something, right? It's a lot less time consuming. It's lower maintenance. Makes sense? That's all I got. Hope you liked it.